What is going on, guys? On today's episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast, we have Billy Fernandes, and his wife was on, I think it was like last year now, it was a little while ago, Tarah, and she had one of our most successful, popular episodes talking about marketing, and he is the other half of that business, focusing mostly on the sales side, and he brought so much incredible knowledge in this episode, focused on sales and building a sales team. And he goes into so many different, like, just tactical pieces that are super, super valuable. And something else as well, I didn't realize how insanely much their business has grown since we had Tarah on last year.
Yeah, they are like massive.
It's like 10x. Like, they have I think we have a big team. They have an even bigger team than us. And their
they're
last
just one
3
market.
months, their last 3 months, I think they were at like 19 deals and 20 deals and 21 deals, doing multi-million dollars a year just in wholesale fees, not even counting their flipping operation. And they're just really crushing it.
Absolutely. And Billy does give like a legit clinic on kind of running the sales and talking about some of the ins and outs of like how he runs his business and what their goals are for next year, which are awesome. And he might possibly have one of my top favorite crazy stories at the end when he talks about his the craziest real estate investing story. I don't know if I've heard anything like those two. He gave two, so you got to listen to those.
He has some pretty wild ones. And then partway through the episode too, he goes into some sales tactics. He talks about this tactic of doing what do you call it, a third party story, which makes so much sense. A great tactic, super actionable, and you guys can take that and go and put it into action right away. It's a really awesome episode, guys. This is probably one of the highest level operators that we've had in the wholesale space on this show. So this is one that you should take notes, listen to a couple times, reach out to Billy as well on social media. He's a really nice guy, he's always happy to chat with people. So don't be shy. That is why people come on these shows, because they want some public exposure. Right. So anyways, guys, enjoy the show with Billy. It's a really, really great one, and we appreciate you all.
Enjoy.
All right, we are here today, guys, with our good friend Billy Fernandes, who you might have heard.
You said his name right.
I know, I did say his name right. After I said his wife's name wrong for an entire episode, and she corrected me at the very end of it. That was like episode 93, I think.
After you've known her for like 3 years before that.
Was it your first name or last name? Is that even what?
It was the first name, and then I tried to put the white guy spin on the last name, and it just sounded super questionable. So, no. So you guys are some of the best operators that we have met in the wholesaling space out of the Dallas area. And super excited to have you on the show, man, and just talk about how you've done what you've done. Because you guys have done some of the biggest deals that I've heard of in the wholesale space. You guys have built a really awesome business. And you guys were always kind of the couple, I guess I would say, like the team in the wholesale space. You're starting out. Everyone was like, what the fuck are they doing? Because they are printing money.
How'd they do that?
And we can't figure it out. So super excited to dive into all of your secrets here today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me. Really, really appreciate it. So I hope to be able to have as good of a podcast as my wife. She's definitely the brains of us too. So she's the visionary and I'm the implementer. She sees something that she wants and she makes me go do it.
I love that.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So I try to pretend I'm the visionary as well, but truly she has a vision of where we want to go and what we want to do with our business and our people and our walk with God and everything else. So she's
Exactly.
awesome.
Yeah. And don't worry, even if your episode does do better, we won't tell her. So you will. It's up to you. It's up to you.
I will rub it in.
I bet you will. Awesome, man. So let's dive into, I guess, we start from the end first. So what does your business look like right now, just to give people some context over what you guys have done? How many deals are you guys looking to do this year? How much revenue?
Yeah, absolutely. How many deals this year? I'll speak in 2024 terms because we're here at the end of 2023. What we're looking to do next year is I came up with, I don't know, maybe it's an ego goal, but a deal a day next year. So our goal next year is to do 365 deals next year.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're doing pretty well to be able to hit that number next year. We did 20 contracts last month, did 19 the month before. We're pacing to do 21 this month. And we're doing that with 3 acquisition managers right now. Right now, I currently have 3 acquisition managers, 1 dispo guy. I have a second one starting here in January, who will also be kind of quasi listing our properties as well, because we don't just wholesale. That's just a part of our business. It's probably about 60% to 70% of our business. 2 lead managers, which I really, really enjoy them. I really try to start people at the bottom, bring them up. I got a kid working for me who's 18 and just grinds. And then the other kid that works for me is 21. It's crazy. Think of like 18, 21-year-olds and be like, probably like just POSs and don't want to work hard. And these 2 kids grind their butts off. They're awesome.
Nice.
Got a transaction coordinator that's an absolute godsend. She's awesome. Shout out to Caitlin. She just handles everything for me and just gets shit done. So she's great. And then of course is my wife. We have an executive assistant as well that works for us. She's great. Helps get everything knocked out. And then we have a small team of, VAs in the Philippines that are doing some marketing stuff for us. But next year, like, is our what we call like our growth year. We'll be adding, should be ending the year with 6 acquisition managers total, possibly 7, 3 dispo guys, 3 LMs, probably adding another TC on there, possibly an assistant to Caitlin, as well as towards the middle to end of the year, adding a VP of acquisitions and a VP of dispositions. That way we can kind of set, not out of the company, but back and we'll run it on the high level side of things, to help grow it. And that's more just the acquisition and disposition side. We also do have we have an in-house property manager. We have an in-house project coordinator and a project manager. So those 2 guys, project coordinator and manager, run as a team. We flip roughly 50 houses a year right now. And our goal next year is what I call a wholesale. Many people are familiar with that. I'm going to wholesale another 50 houses next year. So the 365 deals will be taking down roughly 100 of them.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you have a freaking corporation, dude. Like, you got a lot going on.
That's a big deal.
And I guess for context for everybody, I first met Billy in person. You guys did a stop up here in Spokane because you're heading up to Whitefish. And you guys had just gotten started, and this is in 2021. So you've done all this in 2 years. So do you mind sharing like your revenue numbers so people have context? Because obviously you have a huge corporation going on. What kind of money are you making to be able to support that? And what are you making yourself? Because obviously if all your money is just going back in your business and you're sitting there living off of rice and beans, kind of what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I'm horrible at remembering numbers, so I'd have to like pull up the spreadsheets where it's all kept. But
everyone's always horrible at remembering the numbers when it comes down to
I know our margins and I know what we operate at. So for context, we sit at about a 40% profit margin in our business.
Nice.
This year we should finish with roughly $2 million total in wholesale deals.
Nice.
And you're hearing like 365 deals next year. 2 million doesn't sound like a big number this year. But I had some growing pains that I went through on hiring people, and I really, really learned how to hire slow and fire fast. So really that number where the first like 6 months of the year was like me 1 a.m. Where we were doing just 8, 9, 10 deals a month, and now we're doing 20 a month. So revenue wise, essentially for every $1 million of gross revenue brought in, we're doing roughly a $400,000 profit on carries.
Yeah, that's great. So
those are good margins.
Yeah, if you're doing $2 million, right, it's about $1 million bucks. And the great thing is, because your business partner is your wife, you're gonna keep all that money. See, if Dan and I have a year like that, I got to share it with him, and that sucks.
Yeah, but exactly. Well, I just pilfer it off into other accounts that he doesn't know about.
I mean, that's what I do. That's what I do with my wife.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is we're both just skimming money. Just neither of us know. So
yeah, we have really terrible profit margins.
Yeah, I start acquiring properties in different LLCs that my wife has no clue about.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, your margins are actually 60%, but 20 goes to you before her.
Yeah. Right. So did we really need 80 air conditioning units? I don't think so. But.
If anyone's embezzling money from me, it's my wife, because she controls all finances.
Yeah. Right.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's a good. Yeah, that's funny.
And so
Man.
awesome. Well, that's like crazy growth though, right?
No,
So
that is.
you look at, we all know people too that have been trying to do this game for as long as you guys have, and are still trying to get to the phase of like, oh, I want to do a couple deals per month. You're over here doing like 20, right? You're doing a couple deals a week, which is insane. I mean, us included in that. You guys are crushing it. And it's funny because I didn't realize how large your team is, because I feel like we have a big team, but your team's even significantly larger than So now I feel better about telling you our numbers because your team's big, so it makes more sense. What what kind of ad spend are you doing? Or I guess what is your main form of lead flow to get all these opportunities?
Yeah, main form of lead flow is definitely and still direct mail. Second to that would be mainly like referrals, believe it or not. Just other people's, I have this deal, like check this out, would you be interested in it? Actually, probably website. Sorry, website is second, then referrals. And then after that, we are doing we started doing some MLS prospecting, and we've kind of been ticking up on that, but I would say that's probably less than 10% of our deal flow.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So do you focus a lot, like as far as ad spend on the on your website, or is that just kind of like a trickle-in effect just because you have it and you guys are doing a lot of direct mail, people come to your website, or do you guys actually do a lot of SEO and PPC type stuff?
That is something that we're working on dialing in more on the website. And website's very hard to track too, because it's like you go in, you're like, oh, this was a web lead, we closed a web lead, and you go and you look at that person, you're like, oh, we mailed them 5 times as well. So it's hard to like, justify, was it just a website lead or was it purely just direct mail, which our website then filled out the form? So the website is almost more supplemental than anything. But the ad spend on the website, we were using a company, I'm not going to say who, because we're looking at switching, and I'm not here to badmouth anyone, but just couldn't dial down certain things. We're talking to some other people, because we're definitely getting a lot of traffic to our website, but we just weren't getting like the forms filled out. So we're on doing some tweaks there to see if we correct that for a better conversion rate to have leads fill it out, so that they then inject into our system and we can reach out and close them.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, there's no perfect way to do it, right? Like there's always going to be inefficiencies someplace. I think the biggest thing, which you can probably attest to, is committing to something and doing it consistently over a long time.
100%. And that's like one big thing I tell people is like, they're like, what's wrong with my business? How can I be better? I'm like, look, just be consistent. Like if you knew that you had to make 100 phone calls to get one deal, how quick do you, like, if you knew you had to get like 100 no's to get one yes, like how quick do you go get 99 no's to get that one yes? The same thing with like, pass offs, which, is basically that's what I consider the lead manager passing to the acquisition manager. If you knew that you had to pass off 5 leads to the acquisition manager, how quickly do you go find those 5 to pass off? For the acquisition manager knows that they have to make 4 offers to get 1 contract. Like it's just all a numbers game, basically. Just be consistent on what you're supposed to be doing and put it to work, and it pays out in the end. So, and you'll hit weird weeks and months where like, I just had one of my best AMs, been absolute stellar of a dude, like went a month and got like 1 contract. And he's like, man, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, you're not doing anything wrong. Like it was just a rough month, getting beat out here or there. All of our leads round robin, so it maybe dealt some bad leads, but like had a rough month. And then like he's probably ending this week with 3, maybe 4 contracts. So
nice. That's awesome.
That's awesome. So that's actually a really good point. You're talking about these KPIs and at these handoff points. And I'm assuming Tarah does a lot of this for you guys. I'm just making that assumption. Maybe you do, because I know you do a lot of the sales side stuff. But like, how do you guys implement that with your team? Because what I'm really interested in hearing is your hiring process and how you're managing the staff. And for Mike and I, a big part of what we have to do day to day is like, how do we manage the proper KPIs to incentivize these guys to do the right things?
Yeah. So I'll kind of just give you the KPIs that we're tracking at this time. So like for our KPIs, I want to know how many leads came in. Of those leads that came in, what % did we make contact with? And it should be above a 90, right at a 90%. People call in and they never answer their phone again. Of that 90% that answered, what % were passed off, meaning they were qualified to go to the acquisition manager? Of the ones that were passed off, what % of those were given an offer? And then the ones given an offer, how many of those became a contract? And then of the ones that became a contract, how many became a deal? Because no one ever wants to talk about their fallout rate. Or people will say like, I don't have a fallout rate. Like bullshit. Yes, you do. Like everybody has a
you do. You have to.
And I'll be upfront. Like our fallout rate sits around a 25%, which seems high. But every escrow officer I've talked to that's in the wholesale industry is like, that's pretty standard.
Yeah, ours is about 30%, so it tracks.
Yeah, and it's sellers ghosting you, buyers going around here and screwing up a deal, title not becoming clear, and then like my least favorite one is like you just couldn't find a buyer and you locked it up too high. Like that sucks. Like I feel like that side we didn't commit to that seller what we said we would. So those are the KPIs we track there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's always such a challenging thing, is trying to build a team. Let's dive into just like sales in general, because so many people, I mean, when they reach out to us or they join our instant investor community or anything else, they always think that marketing is kind of like the most important part, which it is. But as well as we do, that marketing is kind of a repeatable thing that anybody with capital can sort of start up and do repeatedly. But what makes the people in this business that are great different from those that just do okay is the sales skills. Whether that is as yourself when you're starting out or as you build a team. And this, in my opinion, is one of the reasons you guys were able to do so well at the start, was because you had really good sales skills. You were good at doing the negotiations, and then obviously as you grow it, you're going to be better at training and instructing people. So I guess what's your sort of view on that for people who maybe don't have like the sales side of it? Why do you think you were able to be successful at it? What were some of the tricks that you like did early on to be able to close more deals when you were kind of just starting out?
Yeah. And so in our business, a lot of people, like we're not used car sales and we're not car sales. Like people like that want a car, like know what they want, they go get it. And like you could hard close them, right, on a car. In real estate, like it's more than likely someone's biggest transaction that they've ever done in their life, or one of their biggest if they've had multiple homes. So it really comes down to engaging with people and like building rapport. We probably have 2 or 3 deals a month where we are not the highest offer, but they trust my guys the most. One, we were literally 10K lower than the other guy, and we saw his contract and we're like, no, we're at 140, another at 150. And they're like, that's fine, we're still going to go with you. Like same close time frame, same option period, everything went with us as just a rapport, and having that engagement with them. So I say it's just huge. Like if you're like starting out in sales, or starting out in this business in particular, just having that relationship with that seller is far more important than like just knowing how to close somebody, and that trust with them, because again, it's their biggest transaction they've probably ever made, especially if it's like a $200,000-$300,000 home. It's probably their biggest transaction, and it's terrifying for them. So having that trust in that process, and that's where I started out, was like, I was like, I don't know much about real estate, but I know I can get anyone to like me, and I'll just go, build some excellent rapport with them. So that's what I'm team for.
What do you think are some of the best ways to do that with sellers? Because I think one of the biggest areas that a lot of people find themselves is they are frankly a different walk of life than their sellers, right? Most people that are getting into this business, they come from middle or middle upper class backgrounds. They usually, can pay for themselves. They've had decent jobs, like they're not financially distressed. And all of a sudden you're getting thrown into, mobile homes that are heavily distressed, that people have lived in for 30 years, getting thrown into family dynamics that we've never seen before. You're getting around crackheads, right? Like, what do you think are some good tips for, to build relationships with those people when you've just never been around them before?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 things there. And one is kind of answers your question, but not really. And like, I think why I was successful in it is because if I had like a superpower, like, I don't know if it's really a superpower or not, but like I can relate to like that crack whore on the corner, and I could have a good conversation with her, and I could go talk to a billionaire at a gala and relate to both of them. Like I can, or like at least hold a conversation. I've never been a crack whore on a corner, for the record. And I'm not working on that either, but I can relate and have a good conversation with either.
Oh man, I feel so offended. Both of you guys are saying crackhead. I don't know why. It just feels so offensive.
I didn't mean to offend you, Dan.
Yeah.
No, you didn't offend me, because we talk about it all the time. I just haven't heard it in like a couple months. We haven't had to deal with one.
The problem is Dan's like Spokane local, so it's too close to home for him.
Yeah, it hurts my heart a little bit.
Absolutely. So like,
Oh my
I
God.
think it's being able to relate to those people. I don't know how or why, but like I could always pull something out of my hat that makes me relate to a person in poverty and a person who's a billionaire and anywhere in between. But the way I find best to relate to people and in their situation is that you might not relate to them, but you could always pull in what we call a third party story. Are you familiar with like a third party story in sales?
No.
Third
new
party
to me.
story of sales is say that you are going to sell me your house and that your like biggest holdup is give me an objection. What would be your holdup?
I've got nowhere to
Nowhere to
move.
move. Excellent. Hey Dan, I totally get it. Like you have nowhere to move. This totally reminds me of that time that we bought a house just a few months ago from Cindy. She also had nowhere to move, and we found like the best option for her so that we could show that she had a contract on her house was that we put her into a contract with a 60-day lease back to her, and we held back $5,000 that she got once she moved out on day 60. And we set her up with the absolute best agent in the city we know for finding new homes or leases for people to move to. And she was able to take that, sign a contract so that they knew she was serious about moving. She knew what amount she was going to get from closing. And she was then able to go and find a place she wanted because she knew she had the paper in hand that made sense for her. That's how you really need to us.
I like it. That's their story.
I love it. You call that a third party story?
Well, that,
Yeah. It's called a third party story.
a third party story, like where you're using an example of someone else in a story, so that you could be whatever. Like you could literally tie that to anything.
Yeah.
I want to throw so many things at you and see how you pivot on it.
I know, right?
Like,
Yeah.
a third party story you got for mom died.
Totally get it, man. Like,
Yeah. I was gonna say you guys should go listen to that again. I've never heard that before. And
It's
Billy probably
money.
paid someone $25,000 to go to a weekend course just to tell him that. So that's a really valuable information you just got right there.
absolutely.
That is.
But I mean, it makes
that's good
sense.
stuff.
And the funny thing is if you ever been around like salesy people, they'll always do that, right? I've just never heard it phrased that way or like, that sort of tactic put in a block.
For the seller to know that someone else has been in that exact same situation and came out on the positive side of things just reinforces that it's going to be okay and builds that trust and rapport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is too, is once you've been in this business for even like a mediocre amount of time, you can make those real stories. You don't have to like make shit up because there's, all of our sellers are kind of different, but the basic way that they go down, eventually you've kind of done all of them. Like very rarely is there a deal now that is completely new. You can always relate the current deal to one you've done in the past, which you've done a few dozen.
Absolutely.
So yeah, nice. That's really awesome. What about like the follow-up process when you're starting out? That's always a huge thing that so many new people get caught up on as well. There's too many people that are trying to scale. I mean, we just had our first KeysCon event a few weeks ago, and like follow-up was like the number one thing that every single person there was struggling with.
Yeah, so I have a saying. I have a lot of sayings in my office. Like, and my wife makes fun of me for them. One of them is time kills deals. Time kills all deals. That could literally be the time from when that lead came into the system to the time it took you to contact them. That could be the time from when you first made contact with them and they said, "Oh, call me in a month, I'll be ready." And you actually just waiting a month. Like I have a rule: if they say a month, you call them in half the time. Call them in 2 weeks. If they say a week, call them in 3 days. So time kills deals. Same thing. Like someone's like, "Yeah, send me a contract. I'll sign it tomorrow." Like you letting them hold that contract for a day is going to kill that deal. They're going to call someone else and show someone else a contract, and that's going to be gone. So with the follow up, my rule of thumb is like when a new lead comes in, we're calling them twice a day, every single day for the first 7 days. Then after that, it's until they pick up. And then we're calling them once a day for the next 7 days. And then we're calling them every other day. The next 7 days, and we call them once a week, the next 7 days. And then we drip campaign them. And then, so that's just like on like new leads coming in that you haven't made contact with. And then I have a rule that no one should ever go past a 3-month follow-up. Like, I don't care if they say they're ready in a year, because you could ask anyone out there, doesn't matter who you are. Everyone has what I would call like a major life event happen to them every 3 months. That could be like a mother passed away. childbirth, a job change, an illness, whatever it might be. They couldn't make payment. Now they're in a foreclosure. So many changes happen to someone in like every 3 months that if you wait past that 3-month mark, you're probably missing a major life event for someone. So never longer than 3 months. But if it's 3 months, like that's usually a more unmotivated lead. That's just not like a cold follow-up every 3 months. Typically, if someone's like a hot lead, like you're calling them every single day to the point of where you're almost annoying, but not to the point where they're going to block your number. And you got to gauge your relationship with them and how that's going to know how hard you can push. You know, you got to know when to back off and when to push. But for people that are on that follow-up and wonder how often to follow up, like you should be following to the point of where you're not annoying. Like that's
Right.
Yeah, you got to just read the room. Man, I hope my sales guys listen to this. They can hear you say all this shit that I harp on all the time and they just ignore me about.
It's not just us, right? Well, and like when people ask me about follow-up, I say like you will be highly surprised about how aggressive we are with follow-up, like how much follow-up we put in on these leads. Like when people step into the business and they're looking to get started, like Mike said at KeysCon, a lot of folks were like, this was their biggest like pinch point because they just didn't have context for how much they should follow up. And it's like, whatever you think is a lot, do more.
Yep, exactly. And I stress that to my guys too, is like, just like the time kills deals, like just get after it, call them. Don't let, if you're not calling them, someone else is. And I tell them, I'm serious. Totally. If you're not calling them, someone else is. And they're going to lock that deal down because they're just there at that one emotional point where that seller's ready to go.
My saying that you can go and take it to your office, Billy, is your warm leads are someone else's new leads.
And kind of a spin off of that's what my wife makes fun of me for, is that leads don't die, you do. It's that like, well, right off their leads, I'm like, now, like, and they're like, oh, I marked it dead. I'm like, that lead didn't die, you gave up on it. We recently contracted a lead, I think it was last week, a week before, that was marked dead in our system, and they wrote next to back in. I'm like, who the hell marked this dead?
We've had that happen.
Yeah, we've had that marked dead, or even better, we let go of one of our sales guys the other day, and literally, that was yesterday, I guess, and literally that afternoon, one of our other sales guys locked up one of his deals that he hadn't been.
Lack of follow-up.
Like literally happened over like 3 hours later, and we're like, well, decision justified right there. That was easy. No, that's awesome. So, so you've covered the sales. Your wife does a lot of the marketing stuff. Let's talk about your flips. I think that's another thing that a lot of people have interest in. And you're doing a lot of flips a year. A, how are you paying for all these flips? You just like using your own money? Have you raised money? And B, managing flips is a tricky process to do at scale. What does that look like in terms of your contractors, your project management? I know you have a project manager, but I'm sure you have some processes in place. You have people on staff. Do you sub everything out? Like, what does all that look like?
Absolutely. So I use Monday.com for managing our workflow of projects. My younger brother, Aaron, he just turned 24 a couple weeks ago. He's what I call our project coordinator. What he's doing is he is essentially going and getting the bid with our project manager of like, this is what the house is, what we need to do to it. These are the stuff we know, like kind of putting all that together. And then he's also in charge of like when people should be paid and ensuring like the job is done. And he essentially on a Thursday sends Tarah a list of all the subs and who gets what amount of money, and we send it off. It's nice that he's a brother, so I have a lot more trust in him. We're able to send it off. He does an excellent job doing that, especially for like a 24-year-old kid. And like he's awesome. He's got more air than I do, and he's got a way deeper. So you might think.
Nice. So with that, when he's getting the bids, like how do you guys have like contractors that you like consistently work with, or is he always like looking for new bids and new contractors? Because that's always like, just like you need flips in the pipeline, you also kind of need contractors in the pipeline.
Yeah, we have the same contractors that we're pretty much using on all of them, and they almost, with the exception of like the electrician or the plumber or HVAC or roof, those guys are doing their own thing or whatever. But like we have like 3 different crews that are in our houses that almost primarily just work for us.
Nice.
If we're a little slow, they might peel off and do another job and come back. But like these guys work hard. Like they're there 7 days a week or 6 days a week. Just sun up to sundown, getting the jobs done. Like we just knocked out an entire 2,100 square foot flip that included like 600 feet of addition on it. And it was literally not to the studs, but it was electric, plumbing. Like it was everything. And we did it in 10 weeks.
Nice.
And they're fast and they're efficient. So Aaron, the project coordinator, is more controlling, like, when are we paying people? Here's the bid, and tracking the bid. And the project manager is actually more in charge of getting the subs to the job at the right time, right behind the next sub, to where, like, I would say, like, the average, if there is even a down day at a flip, there's usually, like, if there's no one there, it's probably never longer than 2 days. We're just one after another working through there. So your other question was, how are we funding our flips? Private money. We have a hard money lender we use a little bit on, and then we self-fund some of them as well. So at any given time, from things that we, I guess you'd say, like, own at that point, or like they're in escrow to sell or whatever, there's probably 8 at a time, roughly, maybe 9.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. How do you track that? That's actually an interesting thought I just had, like, with your private money lenders, and when you have like 8 all the time kind of in process, how do you track that for them? Because that's kind of like a big deal to make sure they're getting paid on time, and that you're kind of keeping them up to date. Because it's kind of like you're running your own little fund for your private investors when you're doing it at that scale.
Absolutely. And what we have worked out with our private money is that we tell them we're just going to pay them all the interest at the end.
That's perfect.
It's just so much easier. We're like, hey, it's way easier to, like, just know that, like, every day we have your money, we owe you $28.57, and we literally go to the day of closing, we multiply how many days we've had it, and that's what we pay you. It makes it super easy. And then they like it because then, like, principal's not being paid down, or we're not, like, going to check every month. They're fine with it. I haven't had one of them complain on it yet. So just goes right to the day of closing, and then they get the payoff, and we send them the payoff for them to sign, so that, like, it's easy for them. They're not trying to figure out what it actually is. And we'll walk them through the math of, like, hey, started this day, closed this day, interest per day was $30. That's, $900 a month, and it took us 4 months. You have $3,600, and your point is being paid now as well.
That's a really good point. No pun intended. When we talk to people about, like, how to make the relationship with their private money lenders better, is, like, take the workload off of them, because oftentimes they're not real estate experts, and that's why they're lending to you, because they don't know how or don't want to know how to do all that stuff. So get documents prepared, get everything put in front of them, and teach them and show them what you're doing, build that trust with them, and then just take all that work off. Because even for some of the stuff we do for our lending, like, we have to do payoffs and things like that, but the people we lend to that are on top of their shit are so much easier, because they already do what you said. They have a payoff ready, and they want to check with us, of course, hey, is this right? And those sorts of things, the documents are prepped for us. It makes it so much easier for Mike and I to do a lot. Makes us want to do it with the
easier you can make it on them, the better.
Yeah, I will say, though, if you are an individual who's going to lend money to somebody, do your own freaking docs to protect yourself, because otherwise you can get all your money stolen.
Yeah, do your own due diligence on everything. You should, right?
Did you get your money stolen or something?
And
No, we haven't, but I mean, it can happen. We've heard some crazy stories over the last little bit about people who've gotten wrecked on stuff. We can tell you off air. We talked about it on other episodes on here. But there was, like, one in particular where these people, you probably know of them, but they stole a bunch of money from another person that they had partnered with on a deal, just because the thief basically supplied the documents and the investor didn't read all of them. And they had a way that they could just steal the money.
Not everybody's going to do business like Billy's going to, where you're going to actually try to protect them. Some people do, like, the slide shady shit, and they're like, oh yeah, I can just steal your money.
Yeah, that's too bad. Like, I love my private lenders. Like, they make my job easier. I don't see why you would. I don't get why people do people wrong. I couldn't.
That makes no sense.
It's short-term gain, right? Like, I don't know. And right now, as the market starts to get weird, you're starting to see that more and more all the time. We've all seen
lots of fractures out there.
So that's awesome, man. No, you got a lot of good stuff going on. Let's your rental portfolio as well. I think you're keeping some properties too. I don't think you mentioned that at all. What's your rental portfolio look like?
We're up to somewhere around 120 doors or so. I'd have to go somewhere in there. Around 120 doors or so.
Plus, you have your storage unit that just prints money.
Yeah, and we did purchase a bunch of properties at the end of this year that were like literally not cash flowing, which I know everyone's like, oh my God, like that's just a horrible like rule, and you don't do that. Like they break even every month. They're good, like 3-bed, 2-bath brick columns, but literally just did it for depreciation and appreciation. Not the cash flow on them. It's hard to get anything to cash flow with 8.5% rates anyways. And I'm like, I'll buy it now, not cash flow for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then refi out 75 grand and then not cash flow again when I have 75 grand. So
yeah. Well, you're also in a different position than most people though, because your real estate business is making multi-seven figures a year. So you gives a shit about $300 a month in cash flow. You want the depreciation. That's a higher ROI.
Yeah, you're going to get 35% tax bracket all day long, and you need to get that down. That's going to save you a lot more money when you're talking a couple million bucks.
And the more and more, like if someone like is like, oh, I want to, people are in this like this, it's I call it the bigger pockets like frenzy, where people are like, I want to buy a single family home so I can become financially free. And I'm like, have you done the math? Like,
it's a lot.
It's hard to do.
It's like, okay, hard. You want to do, let's say someone wants to make $10,000 a month, right? $10,000 a month. And let's just say each door true cash flow is $200 a door. That means you need 50 properties. Do you know how hard it is to get to 50 single family doors? Like, it's not easy, let alone to get them, especially now, to cash flow $200 a door, especially in Texas with our property taxes. Like, it's just not something that's like super achievable. To where I'm like, I'd rather, and I'll probably screw this up some on the podcast, but I'm like, for me, like we are basically acquiring 25 rentals a year. 24, 2 a month, 25. And like the amazing power of like appreciation and doing a cash out refi. So if you start with a house that is worth right now $150,000, and it rents out for the 1% rule, being $1,500. That here in Texas breaks even on like pity, and you put away like a little bit of property management and a little bit for like repairs and maintenance. But like when we also do a house, like we are bringing them up to like new. So I shouldn't have much repairs and maintenance. Take that $150,000 home, and over, I think it's 10 years with a 4%. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 10 years, that home is now worth, with a 4% increase every year, like 230 grand. I don't know. Oh shoot! I told you I was going to screw up on podcast. 150 is what we tried it for. It's worth 200 as is. 200,000 over 5 years with a 4% increase. I believe me. Someone's going to fact check me on my numbers. It's fine, but I think it goes to about 260,000. Is what that ends up to. Well, take that number 260,000 and do a cash out refi at 75% in 5 years. That's 195, and your debt pay down has probably gotten down to around like probably roughly 135,000. You just cash out refi 60 grand in 5 years. And if you're doing 25 homes a year, that's $1.5 million a year. You're pulling out tax free every single year because you're just taking a lump of houses you did every year. So those numbers are close. Someone's going to give me a bunch of shit for that number being off, but go do the math on your own and figure it out. But you get the point.
Yeah,
totally. And that's like the value. That is the value of holding real estate. Like people, like Mike and I talk about this a lot. We're not discouraging from property ownership. You're actually encouraging it through your process. Just don't think you're going to quit your job and live off of cash flow, because it's incredibly hard to get to your point, $10,000 a month in real clean cash flow. But that tax-free benefit when you're doing these refinances over the long term is amazing. And it sounds like you treat your portfolio similar like Mike and I. We treat our portfolio now, because we do have cash flowing properties, as a shock absorber, so that we can take those big home run swings on these other properties and do these big appreciation and refinance.
Exactly. And that's what we're buying. And not only will like those refis in 5 years make us like, I think it actually too much of 1.2, if I remember correctly, which was 100 grand a month is how I thought of that. And that's doing 25 a year. So like you could cut that in half and you're still going to like refi out, 600 grand a year.
600.
Payout,
Yeah, right.
That's not bad.
So
for not
to
doing
me,
much.
I think people can become financially free if they like worked on a 5-year stretch of acquiring 10 homes a year, or even 5 homes a year. And then every 5th year you're doing a refi on them. That money you're pulling out becomes like what you live
Right.
Not necessarily the cash flow. Or you can not refi them in 5 years and they are cash flowing at that point.
They are.
You could chop it up 100 ways, but
That's what you just said there reminds me of Alex Hormozy says this, where he's like, you can tell somebody's wealth based on their timeline. Like so many people think on a 30-day timeline or a 1-year timeline. You just said you have a 5-year vision here. Like that's a longer timeline than most people that want to get into real estate think of. But that's the reality of it. A 5-year, a 10-year, a 15-year timeline in this business.
And I love that you brought up Alex Hormozy because like our 10-year goal is to do $100 million in gross revenue over the next 10 years. So that's between flips, wholesales, and wholesales. And like that number is like terrifying to people, like $100 million. Like that's a lot of zeros. But like when you break it down to what that looks like in a team and the amount of flips you're doing, it's not crazy. It's really not. It's more achievable than people think it is. So that's our goal in the next 10 years. So I hope someone finds me in 10 years and asks me if I did $100 million because I'm going to say yes. I'm going to do it. So
I love it, man.
There we go. Alexa, set a reminder for 10 years to text Billy about his $100 million goal.
Let's do that.
Don't worry. We got you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, really good stuff, Billy. It's really, really awesome. And again, just to reiterate for everybody, Billy started doing this business in 2021. And it is, as of recording, December 5th, 2023. So that is not very long. So he probably has hit most people's 10-year goals in like 2.5 years. So, and Billy's a smart dude. He's definitely works hard, but a lot of stuff that he does is repeatable. It is process oriented. You can all do the same thing if, you put in a little bit of gusto. So right on, Billy. We are going to dive into the end of show questions here. The first question, which is always the group favorite, is what is your craziest real estate investing story? And you're not allowed to tell the dog joke, the dog story, which I'm glad wasn't a real estate
awesome
story that you still sold to beat up several years ago.
That's an amazing story.
Craziest real estate story. I'm sure you have plenty.
Yeah, that's a you need four bourbons at least. Story.
Yeah, I want you to tell that joke at as like a stand-up bit, like on a stage, because I feel like that would crush.
It probably would.
That would crush.
Yeah.
Craziest real estate story. I'm going to tell you one that's a little bit longer than the second one. That's just like, oh my God. And it's like a quick one. But the first one was, it's actually a home that's here, like not far from my house, like 15 minutes down the road. And basically whenever they're like pick up a contract from these two brothers that live in this house, like I've been there before, like few times to meet them. They've always been like weird dudes. They were painters. Like they just huffed way too many fumes in their day. And for the record, I carry every house I go into, and I encourage my team to do it as well.
I thought you were about to say, for the record, I have nothing wrong with huffing paint. I just think that's what they did.
Right.
Yeah, so I still carry every house I go into, and I go to this house. We get the contract signed, and like these two brothers, and like they're like, the house smells like weed and like cigarettes, and like I think one of them's drunk. Like it's awkward, and like they're being like friendly, and they're, keep in mind, they're brothers. They're not like gay lovers. Maybe they're both. I don't know. And I'm in the kitchen, like we signed the contract, and I'm kind of like in the like there, and I'm almost kind of cornered, and I felt cornered, but like I also felt like I could whoop the shit out of these guys anyways. But they like you know what, people have like no sense of like personal space.
Yeah.
Like they just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And like it came to a point like where I was like backed up on a wall a little bit. And I was like, hey, like give me a little bit of room. Like jokingly, like, like you're getting close. Like I can't breathe, tried joking about it. And one guy like reached out and he grabbed my bicep. He's like, you have really nice arms. And I was like,
oh man.
I was like, oh, don't touch me again. He's like, don't touch you again. He's like, what's wrong? I'm like, just don't touch me. That's all. I don't like being touched. And he said something that was like really mouthy. And like, then like the other bro was like, you got a fucking problem? And we're kind of in the corner. Yeah, I pulled my pistol out. I was like, let me out. And I worked on it. They
Oh,
moved.
damn.
That was like my crazy, like, oh shit story.
Yeah.
Just,
Wow. Did you buy the house?
Yeah.
so I had to sign contract. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I
you
had to
did?
sign contract. I went out.
Of
I
course
called
you
the
did.
buyer, no for it. He's like, yeah, I want in. Like, let me go see it. I'm like, I'm gonna escort you into this house. So I call the sellers, like, get into the house. I'm like, maybe they forgot about it because the amount of paint they popped. I call them, they're like, F you, we're not selling you the house, blah, blah, blah. You come here, we got our guns now. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna send you a termination.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
man.
just
No shit.
wasn't worth it. So that was like, that was definitely like my most like feared appointment that I went on. The other one was like a porterhouse, another wholesaler brought me. This is a fast one. Walk the house, porterhouse, get into the bathroom. I wish I could find the photo for you. And get into the bathroom and look at the toilet. And it's see if I can find that photo while we're going here. And
Yeah. If you find it, you can
send it over
send
to
it
you.
to us too. We'll put it in the show notes.
So we get over to the bathroom and I'm looking in there and I'm like, it's just, the toilet is like just full to the brim and
Oh, my
crap, like just
God,
to the
dang
top.
it.
I'm like, God, that's nasty.
Nice.
Not the first time I've seen a toilet like that. I was like, whatever. And I look over in the bathtub. I'm like, God, is it just like stagnant water in it? No, like the toilet plugged. So they started just shitting in the bathtub. And it was
Oh my God.
to the brim and crap.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's like a
Whoa.
long time.
That's a lot of
It was,
doo-doo.
it was bad.
Oh
It was to the top, like, and like you could see like where it just like was like where they kind of hover over the edge of this coming down the side of the toilet. And they like oh dude, it was the nastiest house I've ever been in. But I sold it for 20 ribs.
Oh,
so,
my gosh. There you go.
but I kept the guys bought it. I was like, I was like, dude, the bathroom's disgusting. He's like, my guys have hazmat suits.
Yeah, right. They sent the intern to clean that one up. Like it'd be fine.
Right,
New
the
guy.
new guy that quit after
Yeah,
that.
by far, that was the nastiest
God.
house I've ever been in my life. It just,
Yeah.
and someone lived in there
incredible.
2 weeks before. Yeah.
It's just the state of things that you see in this business are insane.
It's
Right.
that
You got
in
that.
mind.
It is sad.
Yeah. That's wild. Well, I'm glad that you didn't get raped, Billy.
Thank you.
That would
Me too.
Yeah.
that
I'm
would
glad
lift
that,
the mark
yeah.
on it.
And you didn't get pink eye either. Jesus Christ.
All right, awesome. All right, second question. What is the number one tip you would give to an investor trying to scale their real estate business?
No more tip to someone trying to scale their real estate business. If you're trying to scale like your real estate business, I'm going to speak more in terms of your wholesaling business. One, I don't believe you can scale a wholesaling business without a good reputation. Wholesaling already gets a bad reputation. And if you come out of the gate and just give your name a bad rep, like you're not going to make it very far at all. So if you want a scale, part of having a good reputation with buyers, sellers, investors, lenders, everyone is keeping your reputation clean.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
That's
huge.
great advice.
Yeah, that's for some reason, especially these days in the world of the pace morbies and like just throw people under the bus and don't protect the sellers. We're seeing a lot of people not do ethical stuff.
It's just mind
I
blowing.
had a guy tell me my own
Yes.
deal the other day. He cold called me and asked me if I wanted to buy this mobile home. And I'm like, yeah, send me the photos. I look at him, I'm like, that's the deal we're selling.
These are my photos.
Oh my God, I try to daisy chain it. That's the worst. Yeah. So awesome. All right, Billy. Last question. Where can people find you, follow you, and reach out to you if you'd like to do so?
I'm not crazy on the social medias.
You can plug your wife's again if you want to. I mean, I know you use her for your money raising needs.
Ours are very similar. Mine is Billy_Ferns, Ferns, and hers is Tarah_Ferns. That's where you find us. And then Billy Fernandes on the Facebooks. And that's what I'm on. Again, I don't post a lot, but I should. I know that your brand is everything, but I do. When I do post, it's usually gold. So you don't have to sit through a million videos to find the good stuff.
Yeah, you do post some good stuff. And, it's funny. You guys should go look at Billy's Facebook page because his clean-cut profile picture on there is probably not what you're expecting for a guy that goes and walks through houses with bathtubs full of shit for a living.
Yeah.
So, awesome, Billy. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. We really, really appreciate it. And congrats on your success, dude. It's so awesome to see how far you've come.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been great talking to you. We need to meet up again soon. So
I know.
Absolutely.
Are you going to any Go Abundance things over the next little bit?
I will be in the next one in Wyoming.
Okay, cool. Next year.
I think it's not till June, but I'll be at that one.
Yeah.
I might be at the regional event in Scottsdale as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'm planning to go maybe to the Wyoming one, so we'll see you there. Not before then, but cool. Right on. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. You should go and give that one a second listen if you want some inspiration and also some really awesome tips for an awesome off-market operator in Billy Fernandes. We appreciate you all for listening. And fumbled that one up. We appreciate you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
See you.